Hello everyone, and welcome to the lecture on the box plot. As usual, we start by importing the libraries and modules that we need. Import NumPy, Pandas, Seaborn, and Matplotlib's pyplot. And we have the Matplotlib inline function, which will allow us to see the plots in Jupyter Notebook. We'll start by looking at the tips dataset. So let's import it first. We'll use the load set method for that and save it in a variable called tips. So sns.load dataset, and we'll be using the tips dataset. Once we have that, let's start by looking at box plots for a single variable. So if we see the dataset for our tips, we have total bill, tip, sex, smoker, day, time, and size. Let's start by looking at a single horizontal box plot for, let's say, size. Okay? So we have SNS, and we simply call the box plot method that Seaborn has. SNS.boxplot, and then we'll pass the variable for our x-axis. So we'll be looking at the size variable. So we'll need to index it from our tips database, right? From tips dataset. So tips, and then we'll simply pass size. Okay. Now let's run it. So here we have a single horizontal box plot. So we have size, it goes from 1 through 6, and that's our box plot. Similarly, let's see a single horizontal box plot for some of the other variables. For instance, total bill. So we have sns.boxplot, and then we'll index total bill from our tips dataset. So total bill, run it. And this is what it looks like. It ranges from 0 to 60. And we have our box plot. Next, let's see how we can draw a box plot for two variables. So x and y axis. Okay, let's consider the sex variable and the total bill variable. sns.boxplot, and then we'll pass our x and y variables. So we'll use the sex variable for our x-axis, and for our y-axis, let's use the total bill variable. Okay, and data comes from our tips dataset. So run it. So we have sex, male and female, and the total bill on our y-axis. So we have a box plot for each of the sex variables, male and female. Next, let's see a box plot for day versus total bill. So sns.boxplot, and then for our x-axis we'll use day, and for our y-axis we'll use total bill. And our data comes from the tips dataset. So run it. Now we have day on our y-axis, on our x-axis, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And we have total bill on our y-axis. So for each day we have our box plot. We can also combine these two box plots by passing a hue. Let's pass a hue for this dataset and then see what the result looks like. So we have sns.boxplot, and then for our x-axis we have day, for our y-axis we have total bill, and the data comes from the tips dataset. What we'll do is we'll pass the hue attribute and then set it to, let's say, 6. Okay. and run it. So here we have our box plots for each of the days. Now we have, for each day, we have male and female, right? That's the hue. And we can change the color of this if we want by passing the palette attribute, palette, and then let's set it to HUSL for instance. And now we have a different palette. Okay, let's take this example and then pass the smoker variable as hue. So instead of 6, let's say smoker, and let's change our palette to cool warm and run it. Now we have days versus total bill, and in each day we have a box plot for smoker and non-smoker. And sometimes some of these bins might be missing for some of the variables. Okay, in that case you might see a single box plot for one of the days versus two box plots for another day. Let's see an example of that. So for this, we'll pass hue as time and see what it looks like. So SNS.boxplot, let's pass day as our x-axis, and then for our y variable we'll pass total bill, and data comes from the tips dataset, and let's use time as our hue. Let me run it and show you. So here in this case we have lunch in blue and then dinner in green, and we have day on our x-axis. You see that some bins are missing. For instance, if you take Saturday and Sunday, we only have dinner, versus Friday we have bins for lunch and dinner, whereas for Thursday we only have one single box plot bin for lunch. So there might be cases where some bins might be missing or empty.